Hi everyone, I'm Takahiro Hariyama. Today I talk about my internet-wide malware C2 scanning research focusing on APT malware. I'm a senior threat researcher with VMware Threat Analysis Unit, formerly Carbon Black. I did several researches in the past, such as firmware acquisition, MITM attack, defeating compiler level obfuscations, Cobalt Strike team server scanning, and so on. First of all, please take a look at this virus total result against one IP address. Antivirus engines detected it was harmless, zero detection. But I'm sure it's malicious. In fact, this IP is a WinNTI version 4 C2 server with TLS protocol. The C2 server has been active since at least February, and probably even now. Why can I conclude that? Because since 2019, I've built a system discovering active malware C2 servers on the internet by protocol emulations and used this intelligence to detect and stop threats in almost real time. As I show in this example, IP reputation is not effective for catching fresh malware C2 servers, especially when APT actors limit their malware deployment to specific targets. In this presentation, I will explain how to emulate the C2 protocols of two long-term APT malware, WinNTI version 4 and ShadowPad. This is today's overview. First, I summarize the target malware in this table. Both are utilized by PRC-linked cyber espionage threat actors and support multiple C2 protocols. The big difference is the prevalence. There has been minimal reporting on WinNTI, while there are a lot of publications regarding ShadowPad. I will explain details, including the unique feature in each section. I explain the WinNTI version 4 C2 scanning first. WinNTI is malware seen in many large-scale attacks and has been attributed to APT41 at the list. In 2013, WinNTI was first reported by Kaspersky, and in 2015, Novetter analyzed the startup sequence and C2 protocol of version 3. The WinNTI version 3 components are separated into three components: dropper, service, and worker. Dropper decrypts and saves service and worker, then service runs worker as a payload. And in 2016, I observed the version 3 startup sequence changed. Magrica Networks first described the new variants at JSAC, Japan Security Analyst Conference. To differentiate from other previous versions, I refer to the variants as version 4. The version 4 is more carefully implemented to make the worker code acquisition harder. That's why there is very little public information about this version. And in 2018, I've identified a new worker component whose C2 protocol was completely different from version 3. So I got interested and analyzed the newest version for C2 protocol. The version 4 worker component supports 5 C2 protocols. Basically, the same customizer packet is handled in every protocol, but there are minor differences and additional structures. TLS and HTTPS are encrypted versions of TCP and HTTP. As a unique point, this malware has a server mode accepting incoming packets. It behaves like a C2 server. This behavior was helpful to verify the correctness of the protocol format and encryption for the C2 scanner development. The customized packet is separated into header and payload. Both are encrypted except for the temp key seed value in the header. And the signature and payload length values are validated after the decryption on the receiver side. The initial handshake packet payload contains payload type, GUID, packet sequence number, and so on. Actually, the packet encryption algorithm is still unknown, so I emulate it using IDA upcall function. There are two kinds of keys. One is dynamically generated key from temp key seed value. This code shows the key generation. The other is a portion of the SHA-1 hash value over hard-coded string. In the TCP and UDP protocols, the customized packet data is simply sent. On the other hand, in HTTP protocol, the packet is sent through a post request with several headers. And the cookie header value contains its packet size. The value is a string made up of 5 DWORD hex values in read-only endian. By using this calculation, the previous example string is decoded as 34 in hex. Prior to the post request, an initial GET request will be made. And in the GET request, all values except the cookie are randomly generated. So the decoded size value is 0. I'm not sure about the purpose, but this behavior can be utilized for the C2 scanning. After the initial handshake, the packet payload contains the command ID and the dispatcher ID in the nested structure to control the infected host. Most of these commands are related to plugin management, like version 3. For the WinNTI C2 scanning, I implemented 2 Python scripts. It's unrealistic to scan full range of IPs on the internet with Python scripts. So first I use ZMap to generate input port scan data. The targeted ports are TCP 443 and 80 and UDP 443 and 53 based on the version 4 sample and all the WinNTI reports. Next, the standalone Python script handles 2 kinds of packets. In HTTP, the script sends a GET request and decodes and validates cookie value of the response. In other protocols like TCP, TLS, and UDP protocols, the script sends a fixed customizer packet, then gets suspicious responses with the same size and the different key for excluding honeypots. After that, the IDA Python upcall script decrypts responses, customized packet, and validates the values in the header. By the way, I explained WinATI supports the server mode. So how can we differentiate the server mode infections and C2 servers? At least in TCP, TLS, and UDP protocols, we can identify the difference by checking the GUID and packet sequence number in the decrypted payload. Specifically, server mode infections send back the same GUID value as client, and the packet sequence number is incremented. On the other hand, C2 servers return a null GUID value, and the packet sequence number is reset. So we can differentiate them. I show the scanning result. First, population by protocol. I've scanned WinATI version for C2 servers since December 2019. So far, I have identified 55 servers in total. I think all were likely C2 servers because in TCP, TLS, UDP protocols, I could validate by payload values that I explained in the previous slide. And in HTTP protocol, the scanner just decodes and validates the cookie value, but the discovered IPs were hosted by VPS providers, which were overlapped with other protocol servers. So that's why I concluded all were likely C2 servers. I guess the server mode infection samples use high ports for binding. This graph shows a change in number of active WinATI version for C2 servers per month. I disclosed C2 IOCs twice, February 2020 and November last year. So I think that's why the number in November sharply dropped. But even around 10 servers are still active. As far as I know, there are only 2 public reports related to WinATI version for C2 servers. Both were published last year, about 2 years after I disclosed. I will keep tracking the C2 servers on the internet as long as the malware is used. The next scanner example is Shadowpad. Shadowpad is a modular malware platform privately shared with multiple PRC-linked threat actors since 2015. According to Sentinel-1, this is the successor to PlugX. Shadowpad supports 6 C2 protocols. But in this research, I focus on TCP, HTTP, and UDP protocols because SSL and DNS are not likely utilized by the recent samples, as far as I know. The C2 protocol format and encoding algorithms are different between TCP and HTTP UDP. For example, the key for the packet encoding is included in the header in both protocols, but the key size is different. And the header size is also different. Randomly sized data will be appended as the payload to the initial handshake packet. The size is random, but the maximum size is different for each protocol. Besides, the immediate values used by the encoding algorithms are different per variant, probably per Shadowpad builder version. So I analyzed the 3 variants collected in August last year. Variant 1, also known as Scatterby, reported by Positive Technologies. Variant 2, reported by ESET, variant 3. Variant 3 actually was hunted from VirusTotal at that time, but a few months ago, Positive Technologies also reported it. The TCP protocol header format has been the same since 2015. The session key is randomly generated, then used for encoding both the header and payload. The next field contains plugin ID and command ID. The IDs are different per variant. My C2 scanner utilizes the compressed and original payload size information for the format validation. The payload is compressed with quick LZ algorithm. The TCP protocol packet encoding is like this in Python. Among the shadow path variants that I analyzed, only variant 1 had the TCP plugin. So another variant may use different immediate value for the encoding. After the initial handshake, shadow path executes the C2 commands specified by the C2 servers. For the individual command IDs and payload formats, please refer to the Dr. Webb white paper. The sample analyzed in the paper is older than variant 1, but the formats should be similar. In HTTP and UDP protocols, the header and payload are sent as raw data in UDP or through a post method in HTTP. The header format also contains session key for packet encoding, but key size is different. And the next field is a constant value. I call it the type. And the others are session IDs. The session source ID sent by the client will be set in the session destination ID on the server side. So we can utilize these red-colored field values for the format validation. In HTTP and UDP protocols, the immediate values in the packet decoding code are different per variant, but the algorithm is identical. After the initial handshake, the payload will contain the same data structure as the TCP customizer packet, and the type field in the header will be incremented. Before the scanner implementation, the target protocols and ports were decided based on the recent samples configuration values. I had to implement the scanner per variant due to the difference of immediate values used in the packet encoding. Like WinATI version 4 C2 scanning, first I create a list of hosts open at targeted ports using ZMap. Then the standalone Python script sends the shadow path formatted packets to all IPs on the list, and the script decodes the response packet and validates the decoded values in TCP, payload side information, in HTTP and UDP, type and session ID will be validated. By the way, during this research, I found one shadow path sample, including exactly the same host name and port, except protocol. That hinted shadow path C2 can accept multiple protocol requests at a single port. So I tested my guess by scanning one active C2. As a result, the C2 could accept both protocols at the same port. This is the reason why I just scan the HTTP protocol, not both. The same behavior may be seen in other protocol combinations like TCP and SSL or UDP and DNS, but I've not researched it yet. This graph is a population by Shadowpath variant. I've scanned Shadowpath C2 servers since September last year. So far, I have identified 81 C2 servers in total. During the tracking period, variant 1 has become more active. And this is a change in number of active Shadowpath C2 servers per month. The sharp drop in February is just a system issue. And currently, around 15 servers are active. As Shadowpath is more prevalent than WinATI version 4, I could identify 3 samples on Ballast Total, communicating with the discovered C2 IPs. All malware are utilized by PRC-linked cyber espionage threat actor. Spider is used by APT41. Reverse window is used by ROU, named by Team T5. All C2 servers were discovered by the TCP443 variant 1 scanner. And except the Spider case, C2 servers accepted multiple protocols and ports at the same time. And in all cases, the C2 scanning system caught the C2 servers prior to the sample submissions. This is a big advantage by the C2 scanning research. And last year, the discovery of a Shadowpath C2 IP triggered an incident response. The APT attack had bypassed many methods of endpoint detections, but it was alerted because of the pre-identified C2 IP. In this case, the C2 scanning technique worked as a proactive threat detection method. In this section, I'd like to share my findings for internet-wide C2 scanning, not limited to WinATI and Shadowpath. I generate initial port scan data for the C2 scanning Python scripts using ZMap, not purchasing the third-party commercial data service like Shodan, Censys, Rapid7, and so on. Because for UDP-based protocols, we must scan hosts with the customized protocol formats, or the C2 servers won't answer. The commercial services normally don't provide the option. Additionally, the commercial services don't scan minor ports actively. This table is the result of the number of IPs open at minor ports in last November. If the ports are not targeted, Shodan and Censys return the extremely small data. By choosing the minor ports, threat actors can avoid detections by Shodan and Censys easily. That's why I generate port scan data on my own. Another consideration is anonymization. Scanning operations are sometimes forced to be terminated by ISPs and VPS providers due to abuse reports. In order to sustain the research, the source address should be anonymized. there are two anonymization methods using Tor and commercial VPN service. Tor is free, but only supports TCP-based protocols and has a risk of being blocked because Tor exit relay list is published. On the other hand, commercial VPN service is non-free, but supports both of TCP and UDP-based protocols. So that's why I utilize one of commercial VPN services. By the way, when we use ZMAP with non-Ethernet interface like VPN, ZMAP will cause a segmentation fault, and the bug has not been patched yet. So I recommend to patch using the code explained on the issue page. I wrap up my presentation. By emulating the C2 protocols, then scanning the internet, I've discovered over 130 WinATI version 4 and Shadowpath C2 servers. 65% of the IOCs have zero detections on VirusTotal. And around 10 C2 servers are always active in both malware. I think there is little possibility of false positives because the C2 protocol formats and encoding are fairly unique. I believe the C2 scanning can become a game changer as one of the most proactive threat detection approaches. For this research, I appreciate two external researchers, Tadashi Kobayashi from Internet Initiative Japan. His advice regarding the scalable scanner implementation and troubleshooting was super helpful for me. And Leon Chan from Team T5, he shared his knowledge to get a big picture of the Shadowpath variants. Thank you so much. And last but not least, I appreciate Brian Baskin, my manager, for his patient management as always. This is a sample hash, and the discovered C2 IOCs will be published here right after this presentation. That's it. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much for your presentation on this topic. So are there any questions? I think we may have time for one question. If we don't have any questions from our audience, I have one question. So how much systems were involved on scanning the internet and how long did it take?
For generating port scan data? Or
for scanning the entire internet, you could say, yes.
First, my environment for port scan data generation about 2 days because I have to adjust the packet rate gently not to be terminated. So, okay. And after the port scan data creation, Python script scans probably 3 days to 5 days per single scan. So in total, 5 to 7 days.
Okay, cool. So thanks again.
Thank you.